it's not really that anyone gets so mad about it, but it's different. And that's good. You know what I mean? Like when you're developing a new product and you're developing something that's different and people don't want to accept it or they want to challenge it or whatever, that's good news. Because that means that, you're unique and different. And then there's no to very little competition. So that means you have the opportunity to be able to succeed at whatever you're doing.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to Weiss Advice. Once again, I'm Yona Weiss, and you are joining us with a wonderful conversation. Today we have Kaylee McMahon. You may have heard of her. If you haven't by this point, she's not doing her job properly because, she is disrupting the multifamily space, doing incredible things the past couple of years that I've known her. I'm just impressed every time I see her. Another deal, and just incredible. Always pleasure to speak with you, Kaylee. How you doing today?
I'm doing okay. Getting a lot of work done from home.
Yeah. Well, most people are, but you're in Dallas, right?
Yes, exactly.
Pretty open up over there.
It's true. Yes.
So you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's still better to stay at home. So a little background, if you guys don't know, Kaylee, she's been involved in many different things in real estate. First, she started off as a broker, doing fix and flips, doing many things, sold over $3 million in residential real estate. Now she's full-time as a syndicator in multifamily, has done over $64 million and probably more. I mean, probably when you wrote this, this is already obsolete, but a lot of deals for the past few years as a general partner, key principal. She's making moves, but the biggest thing that you're focused on right now, I would say, and love you to touch on this a little bit or a lot, is how you are really transitioning, building up and helping other women specifically become financially independent, learn how to invest. And you've built an app that's called the SheVest app. So tell me about that.
The app specifically, and it's of course not done. So all of the things I do it's a big learning process, and nothing is ever that I know it all or that I'm finally done. It's all kind of in flux all the time. So the app, for example, is on the App Store under SheVest, and it's beta version right now. So there's some video modules of a bunch of ladies that I interviewed during the lockdown where they've got at least 2 years of experience in some sort of cash flowing asset class. And so what I wanted to do was talk about the pros and cons of each different asset class. And then also, so that app continuously will be adding new sections, quizzes, and then also it's not quite built out yet, but a document section. So you can work on your mindset of being able to understand what it takes to be a boss or an investor or both, depending on, if it was for the faint of heart, everybody would do it so
right.
Not, and you have to kind of get your mind right and then being able to understand what you're getting into. And then also on the document side of things. So that's really kind of what the app is for. And as we move forward, we'll be adding more modules. So, right now it's free for the first 1,000 users. So you can get in there and poke around. That's what we're looking for, is data on what do people want, and then growing it from there.
Amazing. So it's essentially like a tool to help people learn how to break in and get better.
And the pros and cons. Like if you're like, oh, I want to do RV parks. It's like, well, why? Do you even know how it works or what the cons of it are? Or, so you can really compare about what's available to you, So when I was looking out there, a lot of that's available in the single family market. So I was able to learn about notes. I was able to learn about all those kinds of investment vehicles, but I really didn't find anything that was specifically covering commercial. And the app, as you can tell by the name, is geared towards women because in the industry of commercial real estate, there are 70% or 30% or less that are actually women in the space. So right. I wanted to even the playing field out a little bit more and make it to where whether it's the construction side of things or whether it's the, industrial space side of things, where it's just a little bit more friendly to those of us who are like, well, that's not really where I think I belong. It's like, well, there's those of us that are in that space. So
yeah. And, I didn't mention this before, but you are, coined the apartment queen, right?
By myself.
Yes. Well, listen, I coined myself the cost seg king. So, it really royalty in the real estate space is you have to make crown yourself. But But I want to ask you about that. What was the impetus to call yourself the apartment queen?
Really, it was kind of the fact that, so when you look at someone's personality, where they are in their social life and their business life, it all is kind of interrelated. But for me, I'm a lifetime learner, but then I also am definitely that 30,000 foot view visionary person that, knows what's going to happen in 30 years, 10 years, kind of the big picture. And as far as like being in the weeds, that's not really me. So I could see already that in the future that my goal was to turn investing in apartments or specifically commercial real estate into a female friendly industry. And for me, I look at other women that are in the profession with me as women, period, honestly, as queens. I think that all of us should be treated as such. And I think that, in a married couple, for example, that the man is the king as well, king and queen, it's not that one's higher than the other or anything like that. But it's just, I think, more important for me to be able to kind of get some attention and elevate, hey, there's a gap here in this industry. We need to kind of pay attention to the women and make sure that they have just as much opportunity as, the other guys that, it's kind of a good old boy club where, dad's done it, so son does it. So, you know what I mean? And anyway, so really I knew that I wanted to create a place for women to feel comfortable to collaboratively come together and to share knowledge. And honestly, now it's morphed into creating an ecosystem. So this was not what was in my head as far as this vision, but I knew that I wanted to group women together in a male dominated field where, we needed more access to capital, more access to the wealth generating assets that really turn people's lives around. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Real estate is a huge wealth builder. So especially commercial real estate. Yeah.
Absolutely. Are you getting any, or have you gotten like any pushback for that?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not really that anyone gets so mad about it, but it's different. And that's good. You know what I mean? Like when you're developing a new product and you're developing something that's different and people don't want to accept it or they want to challenge it or whatever, that's good news. Cause that means that, you're unique and different. And then there's no to very little competition. So that means you have the opportunity to be able to succeed at whatever you're doing. So, for me, the name will change. We're trying to work on it, but hopefully this year to Apartment Queen Investments, so that it's inclusive of all women. It's not just that was just something that I trademarked after learning about Brad Sumrock and that he called himself the Apartment King. And I was like, searching, there's no apartment queen. Why not? I'm going to be the apartment queen. So that's actually the original thought process of what started the name, but it was the vision of wanting to create a ton of financially empowered women through real estate as like the vehicle to help us get there quickly, because you can create wealth so fast with commercial real estate.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because now, as you said, as you're changing and transitioning, learning this and learning how it is, to kind of build this community, seriously, you want to empower everyone right along the journey.
I've dealt with so many things from, bullying by attorneys, bullying from other partners, whether they're male or female, but especially older males, you know what I mean? Because they think that they can get away with it. And I don't put up with abuse, period. I've been through enough of it in my past to realize that's no longer allowed in my life and to have boundaries. So I'm creating resources or finding resources now to be able to take care of myself. And then what I want in this community is honestly for the ecosystem, for someone to go, hey, do I need a private investigator? Do I need a bulldog female attorney that can make sure that my case is heard? Can I, have that group of people where you don't have to feel like you're a failure, or you don't have to feel like you have to back off of pursuing something because somebody else says that you can't, or, they have more leverage than you or whatever. I mean, all of us deserve respect. All of us deserve an opportunity to succeed.
Yeah. And you're a pioneer to a certain extent for a lot of women to look up to, especially the next generation.
Or work with. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And it reminds me, we actually had another guest on the show a while back. You may have heard of her. She has a similar network of the real estate goddesses. Have you heard of? So she's in a similar vein. Like, I actually made the mistake and called her the real estate goddess, and she's like, no, I'm not a goddess. So all women are goddesses. The company, the platform's called Goddesses because all women are. And so I think it's just the same idea. When you are really just changing the perspective, how people view certain things. And I think, you said less than 30%. I think it's much less than 30% of women are involved in commercial real estate. I mean, from my experience alone, I have a very kind of limited view of things, but from my perspective, what I see, and I'm working with, thousands, people, it's much, much, much less. I'd say 5 to 10% in my own personal experience.
Yeah, it's just, I use that number because the data is kind of limited. So what I'm able to find out is that there's like a chunk of minority groups and then white dudes. So like basically that's what the data comes out to be 70%. And then everything else is 30%. So I actually don't even know what the portion of the 30% is that is just women or just minorities. I don't know where to find that. That's from, what is it called? NMHC, National Multi-Housing Data. So that's one of my most trusted resources. So, there may be some other source out there,
right.
But so that's not even the extent of it.
Yeah, no, and that would be specific to multifamily also, because obviously commercial real estate is huge and there are many, many, many asset classes, and multifamily is just one of them. You just wrote a book, or you just published a book, a collaboration of sorts, right? Called Women in Multifamily Real Estate. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Tell me about that. What was that about? I haven't read it yet. I'll be honest. I like to read the book of the guest before I read it, but you just released it a week or two ago.
Yeah, I just did. And honestly, it was kind of like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of interviews that I did during the lockdown for the app. And so it was repurposing some of that content. Some of the interviews that are on the app are specific to commercial real estate as a whole, all the different asset classes. And then I have some interviews that then go to my podcast, which are just women in business. So it's specifically women that get from starting your business on a credit card, living with mom and dad, the stuff that we have to do to get going, all the way to traction. So that's a different way to repurpose. And then part of it was just specifically the subgroup of women that were in multifamily, because I work with a lot of people in multifamily, but I go, okay, so there's got to be somebody that is a property manager, that is a lender, that is all the different positions that we hold in this field, as well as principals, attorneys. I mean, everybody that I could think of that I've worked with that was a female in this industry, because we get to tell a special story. And that's really what I saw when I was doing these interviews, is that, for example, when you're talking about, Brooke Jackson in that book, she is a lender and she's a broker in commercial multifamily. So she, in our interview, I mean, she's got her kids running around in the background, because I think it was during the lockdown. And I had to ask her, like, how do you deal with that? How are you balancing your life as a mother with balancing your life as two other professional careers too? And she was able to kind of go through a little bit of how she does it, how her family works. And so that also gives women idea or gold nugget of like, this is possible. There are other women that are doing it. Right. I know it seems like it's very hard or it's impossible, but if you have the right support around you, you can definitely pursue what you want to. So it was really just, what is possible. I wanted that to be available to read about. And then from a woman's lens, because we look at things a little bit differently, like even with how we work with other people, how we source our deals, with how we work with teams. I mean, everything's a little bit different. So it's just another perspective. And then even the men that are listening, from like maybe a future perspective, if they have daughters, saying, oh, so she's going to need this skill set, how can I help her, kind of thing. So just a different lens, on the industry, how we do it differently.
Absolutely. No, it's really important. I think it is, because as you said, it is different. And anyone who's like myself, married for almost 18 years now, I mean, women are different. Even whatever, regardless of what society is trying to tell you, that they're really not.
And I even have a chapter in there that was one of my favorites. It's like, don't be the B word, because I go through like, what does that word even mean? And like, where did it come from? And why are we called that? Why do we call each other that? And really it was describing what that word means in this industry. It's really saying, okay, well, actually it's acting like a man, is really what it means to me in this industry, because if we have to emulate a man, typically men, not always, but typically men are autocratic, and there's one leader that makes the decisions, and he's kind of the bottleneck that everybody goes through. And that's typically how men lead, and women are more democratic and we're more collaborative. That's our strength anyway. And so for the longest time, especially in commercial real estate, the woman had to be the big boss bee in the office to be able to have any success. And every other woman got pushed out. And so luckily for me in my generation, I don't even know if I'm like Z or X or whatever I am, but it seems to be a little bit more widely accepted that we want to collaboratively work together. And that's actually our strength, is being able to give everybody a seat at the table and work that way. And so I'm saying in that chapter, don't behave like a bee, which, like I said, is kind of like a man, because you, as a woman, your femininity and your strengths are actually strengths, and they're good.
That's right.
So
No, that I appreciate. That's a really good explanation. I think you talked about being a visionary, someone who kind of sees what's going to be, what could be, and that's I think is really one of your strengths. But what do you see for yourself? 10 years from now, what do you envision?
Yeah. So right now, so the hard 10, let's see, 10 years. I'm trying to think, I'm looking at the vision board and going, okay, it's 2024. That's like 5 years from now. 30 years, I know that. So 10 years. So I definitely see that this business is going to be at least this. So I've got a couple different businesses that are kind of on the burner. This one has, I think, gotten a lot of traction because it's commercial real estate. It's kind of like, duh, it makes sense. It makes money. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like a vehicle. There is a parent company that focuses on, financial empowerment of women, which will also branch off into like the app, for example, which is essentially a mini tech company. So that company by itself, I believe we're going to be able to bring in certain advertisers and vendors, and also it works on referrals as well. It's not a brokerage app. So instead of doing deals inside the app, what it does is you leave the app, and then you're able to go with your education and go partner with other operators and log into their portals or into a CrowdStreet, whatever it is, and be able to do things on your own. But the referral network is where that money will make happen scale. And I can see that being sold off. The other company I'm working on right now is a PMAI, which is property management AI. So learning a little bit during the lockdown about artificial intelligence and about how we have so many human bottlenecks. Like, humans forget things, we definitely do. We make errors, and there's certain things that if you could train a system to just do certain things for you repetitively, then we could just get rid of that waste and legal expense and some other things that we have to deal with that at the end of the day, as my experience in multifamily as an operator has been, it all falls on you at the end of the day. It really does. So I could see that being scaled probably in the next 5 years and being sold off for a very nice multiple. This business, the other kind of arm that I'm working on right now that my business has a hole in is connecting with women that are not quite yet ready to invest. But the really cool thing that happened, and I think everything's just timing, honestly, it's so crazy because I had this idea, okay, I want to create 1 billion investors. And that's really the 10-year goal right there. That's the big, I forget what it's called, but like, that's the big thing that I'm going after. So really, I'm like, I don't know the zigzag of how to get there though.
Right.
So with crowdfunding just changing, this has been amazing. Now I'm actually launching a crowdfunding offering next week. And so, for example, the minimum is $1,000. So that was my idea, was to decrease the barrier to entry so that more women can get involved with it. But then I'm learning too that there's still a gap. There's still a gap even below those people that don't have $700, don't have $1,000, that also need to work on this, like I did at one point in time. Because when you're living in abuse, it's really hard to see from the outside looking in. So I think just by timing and nature and whatever is supposed to happen, that I've connected with some people that are very well connected into those groups to be able to introduce like the app in front of those women, just so they can see what's possible. Other women are doing it. When I was able to, one, see the concept that it exists, which we'll cover a great book later on that, to see, switch your mindset. Oh my God, I had no idea that was even possible. And then to have your own clean space to kind of not have influence from other toxic people in your life, to be able to make up your own mind, work on your own self. Those were the two things that launched my ability to be able to be an investor. So I guess that's the goal, is the 1 billion SheVesters, but trying to figure out exactly how to get there, it's kind of falling into place. I could see like this offering is going to be a $5 million offering, and, do the math. If everyone's investing $1,000, that's increasing the numbers of SheVesters that are existing, where the minimum was normally 50K, type of thing. So yeah, just kind of being creative and figuring out ways that we can reach that goal.
Absolutely. I mean, the growth is, has exponential potential, and that's clear. Once you kind of.
Here's another thing too. So again, I'm trying to think of all the ways we can get to that goal. So in that fund as well, men can invest. I mean, I'm not sexist by any means, but when they invest, like one guy was like, I've got 3 daughters, I go, well, that's three women SheVesters right there, with one person. So what they're saying is they're filling out their subscription documents and they're putting her information in there. And then in our investor portal, the female mentee, if you will, is putting in a little sentence every quarter on how their experience is going, what they're learning, and then focusing on doing like a spotlight, in our investor meetings and being able to present, here's like a case study of how it went well and what their daughter learned at like 5. And anyway, so anything that we can do to kind of get to that goal is where I'm being creative right now.
That takes a lot of creativity to do something like that. It's incredible to see, what from your own experience, right? And I think that's where you're building all of this from, right? It's coming from your own personal experience and where you came and how you've grown at such a rapid pace over the past few years is just incredible. And to kind of bring other people along with you for that journey and then just
oh my God, we have one hand to pull ourselves up and one hand to pull other people with us. Like, why wouldn't I, Yeah.
That's awesome. So I want to transition now into the final 4. These are 4 questions that I ask all of our guests. And so the first question for you, Kaylee, is what is the worst job that you ever had?
Picking up poop, picking up dog poop. It was before my parents would let me babysit. It was the weirdest thing. They were like, well, I want to see if you're going to show up on time and if you're going to like do what you said you're going to do. And, so I'm going to give you the nastiest job. And I wasn't even paid for it either. But, so it was that and the dishes, but that was the worst one, worse than the dishes, but that became my job. And then once I did that on a regular basis and took care of it, they're like, I think you can handle like taking care of other people's kids. I don't know. That was the worst job.
I don't know how that's a barrier to entry there, but
I don't either.
It definitely teaches you something there. That's crazy. Okay. Well, we'll take the next question now, which is what's a book that you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
Oh my gosh. So definitely Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That one, like I was mentioning earlier, I didn't actually say it out loud, but the ESBI quadrant. And so that 10-year goal of seeing the 1 billion SheVesters, I definitely think this main company, the Apartment Queen or Apartment Queen Investments, will definitely be a B-type business that self-runs itself. That's my goal, is to, have systems and processes and people in place. I have a huge passion for travel and realizing that you can have both, that you don't have to, kind of live, thumb it going truck to truck. Like, I'm from Oregon, so we're so like, what, whatever, man. But there's a way to still make money and still be able to explore the world, meet people, eat food, travel, do what you want. So it was definitely Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah. So, you have to create that. It takes a long time to do that, but like you're saying,
yeah, it does.
But you enjoy the process, right?
When there's a mission, vision, values that are very personal to you, I think that then you enjoy the process. Yeah. And there's so many things I have to go through that are just like, I tell my friends and they're just horrified, and I'm like, yeah, but I still have this. I have this why and this goal that keeps me pushing through all of it and realizing that pearl or that thing that I'm going for, it's all worth it, or it will be in the end.
You're absolutely right. I think that you can't even understate that. When you have that vision, I think that's what drives entrepreneurs in general, right? When you have that vision, you have that goal, the mission. I think it was someone just mentioned this recently, but Viktor Frankl, famous book through the Holocaust survivor, and he talks about the principle that if you have a why, you can survive anyhow, right? So, when you have, I'm blanking on the name of the book right now, but anyways, if you have a why, you can survive anyhow. And that's, that's a principle that we live by, right? When you have that why, all entrepreneurs, when you have something that's pushing you, something that's driving you, have that your sights on the goal of where you want to get to, how you can help others and bring people along the way, then anything's possible. And nothing that you go through is, knocking you down in a permanent way whatsoever. You have to get knocked down. You have to get knocked down.
Physically die. You didn't physically, I've been through some stuff where I'm like, well, I didn't actually lose a leg. I didn't die. I just, emotionally I did a little bit, but there are people that go through so much worse stuff, so it's like, you know what? I'll get through it. Someone else has before, for sure.
Yeah. And especially when you can look at others who have gone through it and you can use them and as being an example to others will be a huge driving factor for a lot of other people. I honestly
reach out to me. That's what I had to do. When things get really scary, I have to go, okay, who is in my industry and who's gone through this? And when you reach out, and then when you're in a tough spot and you have nowhere to go and no one to ask, you can get 6 opinions and go, okay, what's a repeating theme here that works? And then there's a solution, you can move forward. So you just reach out and ask for help. Yeah.
Absolutely. So our third question for you is, what is a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
So as I kind of alluded or mentioned earlier, is that property management AI is a new startup that I'm working on. And that involves a lot of engineering knowledge that I don't have. And I also don't have time to go back to school. However, I am studying a couple of different online courses through Coursera and some other places, from some Harvard courses and Duke. And they're super boring, but like at the same time, I have to learn the very basics, because if you have a development team, that's working on your minimum viable product, et cetera, I have to be able to guide people and again, share the vision, and know how to share it with them. So really, I'm not quite there yet. I'm still gathering a lot of data, but once I get enough data, have a prototype and have a little bit of traction, at that point, I'm going to really need a CTO. And I know that a chief technology officer is someone that you have to earn, because that person is going to be in the thing for a while, or for hopefully the whole project. Our minimum vesting period would be 4 years, for example. It's not a contractor, so it's something that would be a built relationship. And really, what I'm looking for is a female. You know what I mean? Like if I could find a female who is in her master's program at MIT, something like that, who could guide a team of developers, because I've found a few teams of master's student developers at like University of Kentucky, Louisville, and some other places that will do these projects, but I'm not to the point yet where I can guide them. So in about 6 months, I'll have enough data to want to hopefully meet someone who can help me understand what's necessary to build what we're going to need to build.
Awesome. Well, if you're listening to this and you are that person for Kaylee, make sure to reach out. All right. We'll put her contact information in the show notes. You'll be able to find her, because no, you're absolutely right. That's a position, and that's something that you need if you're going to scale. You need someone in-house, someone that shares that vision with you and can lead a team to make that happen. I have a couple of people in mind, but I'm not going to shout them out live here. I'll tell you afterwards. But the fourth and final question for you is, what does success mean to you?
Success, I think, means to me what I've realized is the most important thing to me in life is, and it's how I select people. It's how I, honestly, now one of my biggest lessons is that I didn't spend enough time really vetting partners and figuring out not just their criminal history, but also like, who are they on the inside and what do they want in life? Are we in alignment at all? And if not, don't do it. I'm not in a rush, but for me, I look at people, and what I want as an empath is I want to leave somebody better off than I found them. And so when I'm looking at the way that other people interact with me, with other people, if they're gossiping about other people, whatever they're doing, if their goal and their language and what they're doing is not trying to leave that person better off than they found them, then they're just not in alignment with me. So really, for me, it would just be, what was the question one more time?
What does success mean to you?
It means that in everything that I do, that I can leave people better off than I found them.
Awesome. And I think that's incredible, because a lot of people view success like as something personal, like that actually, you can define, right? And what you're talking about is something that is so, it's ethereal, right? Meaning, yes, making sure that every relationship, every interaction that you have is for the good.
It's a lot of work. But I just realized, like, for example, that 1 billion SheVesters goal, there's going to be a point where I'm going to get there. You know what I mean? I am. And I know that at that point, if that's my goal, that's my only goal, what do I do with myself anymore? Like, what's the next goal? What's the next thing? And so then I'll always be chasing this next thing. But instead, if it's how I live my life, and kind of like some other people phrase it different ways, but how many lives you impact, things like that. For me, it's not really a number. It's just, am I doing that all the time, consistently? I think looking back, I would say I lived a great life.
Yeah, absolutely. And along the way, every step along the way, which I think is what it's all about, right? Success is not, as other people say, as cliche as it sounds, right? Success is not a destination, right? It's the journey in which you go. And
oh my God, sorry, I'm even laughing. I just had some major issues that I'm thinking about, how I left this person, and even though they stole from me and they treated me like absolute dirt, I still left them with something that's going to leave them a lifelong legacy of wealth at the end of the day. So I'm like, I'm good with it. Okay. So.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it hurt. It hurt when it happened. Right?
Oh yeah.
And it probably still does, but stings. But that's an incredible perspective. If you can, no matter who it is, right? If even someone is against you. even if someone's trying to harm you.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's been a pleasure. Kaylee, how can our listeners find you or reach out to you? If by the time this episode airs, you're not already the most famous woman on the planet.
Not yet. So if you want to reach out to me, you can email me admin@theapartmentqueen.com. And if you want to find out more about what's coming, what we have to offer investors or individuals who want to learn about the commercial real estate industry, and also learn about financial empowerment of women, why that's so important, you can just go to our website, theapartmentqueen.com. And there is a ton of material on there that you can spend days digging through.
Amazing. Well, thank you again for joining me. It's been a pleasure. Always great speaking with you.
Thank you, Yona, for having me. Appreciate it.
And to all of our listeners, remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn, send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.